Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Dave, for that introduction. For those of you who came to Album in Edinburgh last year, you'll see a much more relaxed version of me this year. Just been saying that to Ben, nearly handing over that mantle. Yeah, well done, Ben, to you and to your team for making this all look so easy. We at Lothian know the reality. This year's conference theme is Moving On Up, which is a really good description of the lens that I'm looking through at Lothian right now. This time last year, I alluded to the pandemic, the rebuilding process that was still very much underway at that point. And so it's great to be moving past that, to see the progress that we've continued to make as we build a Lothian of the future. So with that, I want to talk a bit today about what Lothian is doing to get it right for our people and our customers. I will set the scene and just talk a little bit about who you are, what our recovery from the pandemic has entailed, the rebuild story so far and what we've achieved, and then finally what's next on our horizon. And hopefully all of that will be interesting and give you just a little bit of an insight into who Lothian are and how we look today. So who are we? You can see all the different brands within the Lothian group up there. There's a huge breadth to our business. We are the main bus operator in Edinburgh and the Lothians. We run lots of city bus services, some rural bus services, a few schools, as well as tour buses and coaches. And we're proud to serve such a dynamic market and very blessed that our operating area is destigmatised. And what I mean by that is that in Edinburgh, it's accepted that you will take the bus, use public transport, no matter who you are and what you do. And this is a factor that's played a huge part in our business model for growth. I always think it's amazing when you see Lothian laid out like this. In sharing this map, I want to give you just a bit of background context about our operating area and how it's developed through the last 105 years. I think it's a great way to show our geographical spread and the network coverage that we have today. So what you can see here is the original city network that existed for the first 70 years and how that's grown and expanded from 1986 onwards. And it's that growth that's allowed us to continue to evolve, to keep the network healthy and thriving, and facilitate Lothian's ability to deliver significant financial and social value. And how does our governance work? So we are the UK's largest municipal operator, with our majority shareholder being City of Edinburgh Council with 91% of the company, and the remaining 9% owned by the other surrounding local authorities. We are run at arm's length of our shareholders and are a fully commercial operator. And this means we have our own board makeup and governance structure. Being run in an apolitical way enables us to remain competitive, to offer best value for money, and to deliver a cross-subsidised holistic network. And that said, we do work closely with local and national councillors and politicians. We strive to build strong relationships and share our expertise so that there's a healthy understanding about the Lothian business model and the rationale behind its success. So let's start to get inside the company a bit. These are some key stats that represent a high-level state of our nation, if you like. We operate from 8 different depots located within Edinburgh itself and the surrounding areas of East, West and Mid Lothian. And I want to momentarily draw your attention to our coach works. I feel fortunate that we've been able to retain a centralised coach works where we carry out aspects of vehicle presentation such as retrimming and repainting in-house. Our team there have very specialised experience in vehicle maintenance and presentation and deal with all the aspects of the vehicle that require particular attention to detail. And that's the point I'm trying to make in highlighting this to you. It's the ability to pay attention to the detail that is part of our DNA. The devil is always in the detail. And it's the little things, I think, that when you amass them together, deliver exceptional customer experience. Now, on our wider fleet profile, we have more than 700 vehicles, comprising of a number of different vehicle types. I think the point to take away here is that despite the pandemic, we, by the end of 2022, achieved a fully Euro 6 compliant fleet, and are compliant with the Edinburgh LEZ zone, which will start later this year. And of course, none of what you will hear me talk about today would be possible without our people. All 2,566 as of yesterday of them. And with that number of people, it makes us one of the largest employers in the city. So we're also a major economic contributor. Now, we often get asked how our business model works and where the money actually comes from. There's still a common misconception that Lothian's publicly funded. The reality is, if you add together the top two figures on that chart, you can see that over 97% of Lothian's revenue comes directly from passenger journeys. And every penny of every pound goes into either the running of our business or investing in its future. Now, as the operator for the capital city of Scotland, there's a fair bit of chat, it's fair to say, about the value of Lothian. That can be everything from our worth to our passengers, the city, the bus industry, or even the wider Scottish economy. Now, looking from the inside out, when I talk about it, I find it helpful to define it, broadly speaking, into the three categories that you can see there. So first of all, economic. One of the biggest economic contributions Lothian makes is the cross-subsidy nature of the network. We can take a holistic view and provide services that don't always stack up commercially. Now, these services are then supported by others in our network that do make a contribution. You saw on the revenue slide earlier that just 0.6% of our revenue comes from tendered or supported services. And our economic value really does not stop there. There's actually more than £4 million of cost to the Lothian business that would be borne by the local authorities if it wasn't for us cross-subsidising the network. Now, the next piece of value is social. And this is one of the truly special things about Lothian that we can struggle to put into words, I think, sometimes. I always try to explain that we're very much a part of the fabric of the city, and we're in with the fixtures and fittings. Being 105 years old, I think we can lay claim to that. And what that includes is everything from our dedicated accessibility platform, our partnership with Police Scotland, to our employee-led charity partnerships. And it's also all the unsung hero and hidden in plain sight stories that everyone in the city likes to share about travelling on one of our buses. And so we strive to go above and beyond, and so many of our people feel passionately about the service that we provide. And the final part of our value is environmental. We're acutely aware of the effects our business has on the environment and the communities that we serve. And in turn, we take our responsibilities to achieving local and national climate change targets very seriously. And I'll come back to that a bit more later. So hopefully that set the scene a little about Lothian, and you're starting to get a feel for who we are. Before I talk about the future, very briefly, just a bit about the past, because it is relevant. I'm sorry to mention the pandemic, but I do need to show you where we were. So pre-pandemic, we were in the fortunate position to be bucking the trends for passengers travelling on public transport in Scotland. In 2019, Transport Scotland reported 8% passenger decline over the preceding 5-year period. And at that point, Lothian was actually seeing continued growth. And up to 2019, we were delivering 2.3 million customer journeys a week. And that's a fun fact, covering enough miles to take us to the moon and back. And then the pandemic happened, and it felt like there was more chance of people travelling to the moon. What you see on this slide was the reality of our customer numbers. So they literally fell off a cliff overnight in March 2020 to just 10% of what they previously were. And so during the preceding 2.5 years, we had to make a colossal 18 service changes. Now, given that previously we were used to doing 2 per year, this was the equivalent to 9 years of work. It was the ultimate leveller, I think, because we weren't able to suddenly honour the commitments and the way that we would approach a service change. And so actually things changed, I guess, in terms of our relationship with our customers. And thankfully, most of that is well and truly behind us, but there are still some impacts that linger. Changes in working patterns have led to fewer people using public transport than was previously the case. And the impact of the home and hybrid working pattern has led to a reduction in patronage. So we have recently celebrated a return to 90% of our previous numbers. However, it is important to remember that there's still 10% there that's missing, if you like. And the changing attitudes to work that we've seen have not only impacted passengers, but also our own people. And even as it was fading into the rearview mirror, I think we'd all agree that the pandemic was the gift that kept on giving. The next big test it gave to the industry was the unbelievably challenging recruitment market. A nationwide shortage of bus drivers ensued, and for Lothian, on a scale that we had never seen before, we became operationally unreliable. We could not honour our timetables and run the mileage that we had registered with the Traffic Commissioner. And I'm not going to lie, at that point, as the company's operations director, that gave me sleepless nights. Our obligations to the Commissioner and to our customers are something that we take very seriously and quite rightly care deeply about. And so thank goodness for the collective strength, intelligence and grit of our entire team who worked together to navigate the business through that extremely difficult time. And what did it take for us to get out of those weeds, to lift our heads and to start the rebuilding process? In August 2022, I took on the role of MD and together with a restructured senior team, developed a robust business plan which has laid strong foundations for that rebuild process. And we did a version in 2023 and that's evolved into the 2024 plan that we've just launched. And what's it all about? Very much the things that we will do. So it's action orientated, it's delivery focused, it's very tangible. We have three main strategic priorities for Lothian, which are to be resilient and reliable, safe and sustainable, and trusted and valued. Essentially, these three strategic priorities encompass everything that we stand for. These are the reasons that we get out of bed in the morning, if you like. And we're here to deliver a reliable, affordable network, delivering passenger growth, to be commercially sustainable, our net zero ambitions, and for all of that to be a service that's inclusive and accessible for all. And before I go any further, this is a good moment for me to pause and to just tell you a little bit about our approach to accessibility. I want to do this so that you can see how much it underpins the Lothian ethos and offering. And I really subscribe to the thinking that when accessibility is properly considered, there's a benefit to all. For those who came to last year's album conference, that was something that we had as a theme. And at a conference a few weeks ago, the Cabinet Secretary for Transport in Scotland described the government's priorities for transport as equality, opportunity and community. And I think that no matter what your political hue, we can all agree that these are important factors for running successful bus services and that there's an obvious link to doing things properly for the benefit of all. And so in each of the icons you can see here, they depict an initiative or a contribution that Lothian makes within this space. So whether that's our evidence-based approach and response to the new accessible information regulations, in-depth training for drivers and other customer-facing people, or engagement and support from charities like RNIB Scotland or WizKids. You get the idea. We are continually adding to our offering to make sure that we are truly inclusive of all our customers. And so what has all this work meant? Where are we now? Positively, actually in a much better position than we thought we'd be at this point. I remember large parts of the pandemic where we struggled to ever think that we would get past 80% of our previous numbers. And thankfully, as I've said, those numbers have recovered to just over 90% across the company. And the last couple of service changes have included restoring frequencies. I think after the journey that we've been on for the last few years, it's a nice problem to have that our training school has to work really hard to get through what is now a healthy recruitment pipeline. And so onto the getting it right part. I'm going to be honest and admit that initially when I first took over as MD, I refused to do any presentations like this. It was a point of integrity for me, as I firmly believe that for things to be right on the outside, enough for me to go and talk about others, to others about it, and to share our experience, first of all, they had to be right on the inside. In my head, that's a privilege, and so actually having your house in order is really important. And so in my Dundonian, very spade's a spade kind of way, I've spent a lot of time in those days talking to people in our business to understand what needed to be done to get things in a good place and to develop actions within the business plans I've talked about for the benefit of everyone in the company and for our customers. And so I've just said it, for things to be right on the outside, on the inside rather, and for them to go from strength to strength on the outside, that's the running order, if you like. So at Lothian, we strive to have a culture where we can attract and retain the very best of talent and at the same time encourage people to really be themselves. And so how are we doing this? Hopefully this slide gives you a flavour of just some of the things that we've done and will continue to build on. And I've already mentioned the significant recruitment crisis that our entire industry faced post-pandemic. I struggle to recall a bigger collective problem in the 22 years that I've been in the industry. And so it's fair to say that the most unbelievable effort has gone into everything related to recruitment and retention at Lothian. Our team have spent countless hours together discussing how best to develop an employment offering which attracts and retains the talent that we need. So we've dissected and reconstructed everything from the recruitment process to the onboarding journey to our driver duties and rotas. And many of the benefits that you can see listed on this slide are the culmination of months of consultation, consideration, listening, trials, learning, sometimes the hard way, but always, always learning. And we know it's not just about hourly rates. Of course, money is important, but to many people in today's workforce, it's also as much about the overall offering and the associated work-life balance. And I'm very proud of the work that's been achieved on this so far. It's brilliant to see some of the improvements we've made in retaining people as well. You can see there the reference to our employee survey. It was the first time in a long time that we'd undertaken some work like this and essentially taken our own pulse in this way. So it was with a fair amount of trepidation that we undertook it. And I was so pleased to see the results, which were generally really good. A particular highlight, I think, for our senior team was learning that 85% of people are proud to work for Lothian. And so that's the inside of our world. What about the outside? We know that there would be no success at Lothian if it wasn't for our customers. And I want to talk about what we're doing to make travelling with Lothian an even better customer experience. We strive to put our customers very much at the heart of everything we do and everything we deliver. And it was great to see this recognised last week when Edinburgh by Numbers was published, showing that 86% of people in Edinburgh are happy with public transport. On our customer offering, we've looked at everything that includes frequency, reliability, punctuality, easy access to information, ticketing, essentially everything that needs to come together to provide a seamless journey and drive modal shift. We want to enable intelligent travel decisions, such as one car instead of two, no car instead of one, and make it as easy as possible for people to choose to get out of their cars and onto public transport. And so to make that happen, we have to have a sustainable business model for growth. A business model which means that we can cater for the exponential growth that's expected in Scotland's capital city and its surrounding areas. So with the network, we will concentrate our efforts for the year ahead and beyond on restoring frequencies and readying ourselves for future city developments. With innovation, we have a new customer app coming, which will bring together information and ticketing in one place for the first time. And we'll also be continuing to build on contactless payments and fare capping, and are hoping to scope some other innovation features that will further support driver and passenger safety. And we know that Lothian's sustainability plans are also something that our customers are interested in. Until the pandemic, Lothian's previous fleet replacement programme, Bus 2020, has seen the removal of around 12,000 tonnes of carbon dioxide from our carbon footprint over a 10-year period. And so last year, when we published our plans for the decarbonisation of our fleet, we got some real interest from our customers. This is the start of an exciting next chapter in Lothian's journey to reduce emissions and achieve ambitious net zero goals. What you see on this slide is the framework of our plan for the next 12 years. We envisage a decarbonised fleet by 2035, signifying the whole new chapter for the fleet and the infrastructure required to support it. The first phase, from now until the end of the year, is dedicated to both fleet investment and infrastructure. We'll add 50 Volvo electric double decks to the fleet and complete the infrastructure upgrade required to make Central our first fully electric depot. And when we consider our fleet in the wider sense, there are over 700 vehicles to take into consideration. So you'll appreciate it's a plan that's been a long time in the making and has already come with significant challenge. And so that's why it's been deliberately designed so that we can be both flexible and agile in our approach. So I'm going to finish by leaving you with two key headline stats. Last year, Lothian delivered 110 million customer journeys, and for the first time in 4 years, we returned a dividend to our local authority shareholders. And it's me who gets the great privilege of standing here today and sharing this story with you. But it's every single one of the 2,566 people in the Lothian team who have delivered this. And so with that thought, I hope I've given you a bit of an insight into life at Lothian and that you can see that our focus is firmly on how we get it right for our people and our customers. Thank you.
Hi Sarah, I hope I'm not misquoting you, but I think you said right at the start of the presentation that bus transport was destigmatised, but basically people, whoever they are, take it that they're going to use the bus. Is that more because of the nature of Edinburgh that cars, travelling by car is not as much of an option? A bit like London, where obviously people use public transport. Are you kind of fortunate in that respect? Or is there something that you've done magically that's made people feel there's no stigma to travelling by bus?
It's a great question. It's one we get asked quite a lot. It's a number of factors. Everything from the network, and in terms of the network, it's been, largely from the first tram network in Edinburgh up until the end of the 1950s, that connected communities, that kind of knocked down barriers, I guess, around affluence, and allowed people to do north, south, east, west journeys in a way that made it very, very simple for them. And so I think the continuation of that is a huge part in it. And the fact that we talk about our bar being set high and that being for everybody, so being truly inclusive. So it's not that people in Edinburgh can't afford 2 cars or 1 car, it's that we enable them to choose those intelligent decisions where they can leave their car behind for certain journeys.
And you touched on recruitment, which obviously has been a major issue, as you say, right across the industry. Once you've got people in, though, it's about keeping them. Have you been able to establish anything about all the initiatives that you've shown us there, how they've succeeded in improving retainment rates, so when people come and join you, they stay with you?
Yes, so retention rates absolutely improved. I think we were seeing new people joining us not staying. We have also worked really hard, and I think it was one of the things we recognised early on, that actually it's not just all about the new people we bring in, what about the people that are already in the company? And so introducing a part-time rota for retired drivers has played a huge part in that, I think, reversal, if you like, of the kind of cultural piece that was seeping in that we weren't interested in retaining. We're very fortunate now that we've got a strong presence of that experience. So again, it's a good way for us to hand down the knowledge and experience from those who are inexperienced people. There's a place, I think, for everybody, and we're getting better and better at facilitating that.
Yeah, I mean, the part-time rota for the experienced drivers is an interesting concept, because sometimes people say, well, it's an industry that's got a timetable, you've got to fill those slots. So you are thinking more flexibly, offering flexible work patterns to people, men, women, partially retired people, to get them to be part of the industry. It is, in the long run, it's a good investment, presumably.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the other things that we've done that's been really successful is 4-day rotas. So we started in each of the big city garages with 4-day rotas and have increased the number of lines on those rotas due to the demand. Again, I think that's really helped to allow people just to change their working patterns. And we've got more work to do, there's no doubt about it. One of the things we're trying to do now is improve our gender balance, and I think that flexibility piece is going to be a key part of that. And it's no point dressing it up. That's a big challenge when you run a 24/7 service on Christmas Day, all of that. We have to run buses at times when people don't always want to work. But what we're learning is more and more, if we can offer set patterns, that there's that then ability for someone to juggle their commitments so that they can do a night shift on a Saturday or a back shift or whatever it is. And so actually, I think there's more for us to do there, but the strides that we've made forward on the rotas particularly have been a big part of it.
Right. Anybody got anything they'd like? Yes. I can just about see you. I was a bit dazzled by the light there. I'll hold this for you, it's okay.
All right, thank you. Steve Parrish, Non-Executive Director at Warrington Home Buses. I've got a brother-in-law who lives at Craigleith, so free accommodation join the fringe. Why does anybody actually want to drive a car into the city centre in Edinburgh in August? And does the City Council actually have any policies to discourage workplace parking?
You can come back with us to Edinburgh, please, and shout that one. There's a huge increase in the population in Edinburgh. It's some amazing stat, like it between double and trebles every August, and we see that uplift on our services to the point where actually people, thankfully, because they're on their holidays, are understanding. But the capacity is unbelievable. In terms of the council, I think there are things that are done. Martin talked a bit about roadworks earlier. We have what we call the festival embargo, where there's meant to be as few sets of roadworks, apart from the very urgent ones, as possible. And I think that helps. It's an interesting one, because even though we're busier, the lack of congestion and the increased resilience in the network really, that helps, no question. Parking in Edinburgh is very expensive anyway, all year round. And so, back to Dave's first question, I think that, also helps. And there are things, there are a lot of other policies being looked at, such as charging on Sundays and the various things that have been discussed now for quite a few years that I think will help. And Sundays are an interesting one for us because they were our quickest recovered day. So whilst people are working at home during the week, we definitely saw that increase at the weekends. So it was good to see that kind of synergy of the parking piece with making it easier for people to travel at the weekend.
Yeah, I know that Manchester, I think at one stage, were thinking about introducing workplace parking charges. I think they dropped it in the end because they thought it was just politically too problematic. But with a large population in a relatively small area, I think, public transport is always going to blossom, isn't it? Anyway, Sarah, thank you very much indeed for your time. Give her a round of applause.